On the farm today, wherever you look, you see the handiwork of scientists. Improved crops, more productive soils, more useful, more efficient machinery.
Over the last century, government policies, big infrastructure, and corporations have forced US farmers into a vicious cycle of expensive inputs, low crop prices, and increasing debt. Faced with mounting pressures, many farmers have had to sell their land. Rural landscapes have shifted from a mosaic of small family farms to large-scale industrial operations, many owned by agri-business companies. Yields of commodity crops like wheat, corn, and soy have increased, but at what cost? Excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides has exposed farm workers, often immigrants, to dangerous chemicals and has caused toxic runoff, contaminating water sources and creating dead zones. Industrial agriculture has become the largest single cause of biodiversity loss worldwide, harming the ecosystems we all rely on for survival. And higher yields haven't meant that everyone can access the food that they need. Over 35 million people in the US, 10.5% of households, were food insecure in 2019, experiencing a lack of reliable and consistent access to food. At the same time, over a third of Americans suffer from health problems caused by the food they eat. And at the end of the day, roughly a third of the US food supply ultimately ends up at a landfill. This is a broken system. Yet, it was exported as a model for a green revolution in Asian and Latin American countries, where it led to long-term economic and social strain in rural areas, pushed many small-scale farmers off of their land, and had negative environmental effects. And it is now being exported to Africa. The Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa has pushed African farmers to adopt the American way of farming by promoting commercial seeds, chemical fertilizers, pesticides and weed killers, and focusing on commodity crops like corn. The Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, was created in 2006 by the Gates and Rockefeller Foundations with the aim of improving and modernizing African agriculture. AGRA promised to double crop productivity and the incomes of 20 million smallholder farming families, while cutting food insecurity in half in 20 countries by 2020. After 15 years and over $1 billion spent, AGRA has failed. Productivity gains have remained at the same level as they were pre-AGRA. Farmers have taken on debt they can't pay back, and hunger increased by 30% in AGRA's focus countries.
I did a lot of research in Ethiopia, and previously, some 7 or 8 years ago, I don't know, Ethiopian farmers using glyphosate, Roundup. Now they are using it. It's having a lot of impact on their health. And the pesticides are having a huge impact on African farmers and African consumers in general, and African people. I think the biggest problem is dependency. They would be locked into a system. You have to give it artificial fertilizer and also the pesticides to operate. That's dependency.
This model will not solve hunger, help farmers, or address climate change. In fact, it is making these problems worse. So why is it still being promoted and funded in influential global arenas despite its widespread documented failures? For whom is it succeeding? Philanthropic organizations like the Gates Foundation, the largest private charitable foundation in the world, are trying to apply business principles to solve complex social problems. This is called Philanthro-capitalism. In the case of African agriculture, it is furthering the interests of corporations and harming African farmers and communities, while claiming to advance the humanitarian goal of feeding the world. In this series, we investigate how this is happening in Africa and hear from people who are working to build more sustainable, equitable, and just food systems.